The night cracked open when the penthouse door slammed shut, echoing like thunder across the glass walls. Naomi pressed her back against the cold surface, her chest rising with unsteady breaths. She whispered, "I told myself I wouldn't break," yet her voice trembled with betrayal. Adrian had left without a glance, his absence louder than his presence ever was. He was the billionaire who touched her like fire, but burned her with his indifference. The city lights flickered through the storm, painting her face in broken neon hues. Naomi clutched her silk slip, her body trembling as the truth cut deeper than desire. She had given him something sacred, and he had walked away like it meant nothing. Naomi sat trembling on the floor as silence swallowed her whole. Her breath came in broken waves as she whispered, "I was nothing more than a distraction." The storm outside pressed against the glass, neon colors mocking her sorrow. She pressed her palm to her chest, her heartbeat screaming louder than her words. Adrian had taken what she thought could only belong to love. The city beyond the windows shone indifferent, its light exposing her pain. She knew he had stolen her innocence, and now she felt both awakened and destroyed. Memories cut her sharper than knives. Adrian's voice still whispered in her ears, his touch still heavy on her skin. For one night, he had looked at her as though she was the only light in his world. Now she whispered, "How foolish I was." Her laugh cracked bitterly before she choked it back with sobs. She scrubbed her face with shaking hands, refusing to let the tears own her. Pride battled despair as silence swallowed her, reminding her of his absence and of her shattered belief in love. Naomi rose slowly, her bare feet pressing into the cold marble. Her gaze fixed on the door Adrian had walked through. "He didn't even look back," she muttered, her voice tight with rage and grief. Her reflection in the glass revealed both fragility and fire. She pressed her hand against the storm-streaked window and made a silent vow. If Adrian thought she was weak, one day he would regret underestimating her strength. The storm roared, thunder shaking the skyline as Naomi curled into the leather couch, clutching a pillow. She whispered, "He'll forget me by morning." Her body trembled with pain that burned deeper than flesh. Yet within her chest a fragile spark of defiance flickered. She would not let this night define her. As she closed her eyes, her heart screamed betrayal, but her breath steadied. For the first time, she realized survival meant rising from the ruins of love. Morning light cut across Naomi's face as she sat curled on her bed, sleepless and raw. The storm had passed, but its weight still clung to her chest. She whispered, "I should have known better." Her phone buzzed with messages she refused to read, each vibration a reminder of a world she wasn't ready to face. She thought of Adrian's hands, the way his gaze had devoured her, and she hated herself for still feeling the heat. Naomi's heart throbbed with the ache of innocence lost, but beneath the pain burned the truth of her desire. She had wanted him, and wanting him had ruined her. Her best friend Maya stormed into the apartment, her voice sharp with worry. "Naomi, you look like you've been fighting ghosts," Maya said, crossing the room. Naomi forced a bitter laugh, saying, "Maybe I have." Maya's eyes softened, but her words struck like truth. "He doesn't deserve your tears." Naomi shook her head, whispering, "It's not just him. It's me. I let him in." Her voice cracked under the weight of shame. Maya reached for her hand, grounding her in silence. Naomi clung to the warmth, realizing that sometimes strength meant allowing someone to see you broken. Naomi's voice was low, almost a confession. "He made me feel like I mattered, if only for a night." Maya tightened her grip and said, "You matter without him." Naomi's eyes filled, her heart twisting at the thought of her worth, tied to Adrian's fleeting passion. The memory of his touch lingered, heavy as a chain. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I hate him, but I hate myself more." Maya pulled her into an embrace, whispering, "Don't you dare, he doesn't get to define you." In that moment, Naomi realized her scars had always been there. Adrian only exposed them. Later that evening, Naomi stood before her mirror, staring at her reflection. Her eyes were swollen, her braids messy, her dignity bruised but not gone. "Who am I now?" she whispered. She touched the glass as though reaching for the girl she used to be. Adrian's shadow haunted her, yet her own reflection demanded strength. She remembered Maya's words and let them sink into her bones. She whispered, "I matter, even if he walks away." For the first time since the night, Naomi breathed without breaking. The mirror showed not just her pain, but her promise to rise. The phone rang, Adrian's name glowing across the screen, like fire she couldn't look away from. Naomi's breath caught, her thumb hovering above decline. Memories of his voice tangled with the pain of betrayal. "Why is he calling?" she whispered to herself. Maya's warning echoed in her head, yet her heart leapt at the thought of hearing him. Her chest tightened as the ringing filled the room. Naomi closed her eyes and let it fade into silence. For the first time, she chose herself, trembling, terrified, but alive. She whispered, "Not tonight." Naomi walked briskly through the lobby of her office building, clutching files like a shield. She thought the world had finally given her space, but then Adrian's voice cut through the air, deep and unshaken. "Naomi, wait." Her chest tightened, her pulse spiking with anger and desire. She turned, her eyes sharp as glass. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed. His gaze locked on her, guilt and hunger flickering beneath the polished mask. The crowd moved around them, but in that moment, the city froze. Naomi felt torn between walking away and falling into the fire that had already burned her. Naomi's lips trembled as she forced steel into her voice. "You had your chance, Adrian. You used me." Adrian stepped closer, lowering his tone. "I can explain." She shook her head, whispering through clenched teeth, "You broke something I can't fix." His jaw tightened, eyes burning as though her pain was a mirror of his own. The lobby buzzed with life, but all Naomi heard was her heartbeat pounding like war drums. She wanted to scream, wanted to flee, yet the magnet of his presence pinned her in place. Later, Naomi stormed into Maya's apartment, her words spilling like broken glass. "He had the nerve to show up at my job." Maya folded her arms, fire in her eyes. "And you didn't slap him?" Naomi dropped her bag, sinking onto the couch. "I wanted to, but I froze." Maya knelt, her voice softening. "Because part of you still feels something." Naomi buried her face in her hands. "And that terrifies me." The truth hung heavy between them. Love and pain often shared the same skin. That night, Naomi walked alone through the city, neon lights bleeding into puddles at her feet. She whispered, "Why can't I let him go?" The storm in her chest clashed with the silence of the streets. Adrian's touch haunted her, his absence even louder than his voice. She stopped under a street lamp, her reflection shimmering in the rain. She knew desire was dangerous, but her heart betrayed her with every step. She whispered, "Maybe I wanted to be broken by him." The thought shook her to the core. Naomi returned home to find Adrian waiting at her door, his silhouette sharp against the hallway light. Her breath caught, fury and longing colliding. "You don't know when to quit," she snapped. Adrian's voice was raw. "I can't lose you, Naomi." She shook her head, eyes filling despite her resolve. "You never had me." He stepped closer, shadows deepening across his face. The air was thick with everything unsaid, every secret yet to be revealed. Naomi's body trembled as she realized the battle between love and pride had only begun. Naomi stood frozen as Adrian held a folder in his hands, his face pale with guilt. "You need to see this," he said, voice low. She snatched it, her eyes scanning the documents. Her breath caught. Her family's struggling business had been bought out months ago, and Adrian's name was signed on the deal. Her voice cracked, "You ruined us." Adrian's jaw tightened, eyes burning with regret. "It wasn't supposed to be you, Naomi." Her chest heaved as betrayal crushed her all over again. She whispered, "So I was never more than a casualty to you." Naomi's hands shook as the folder slipped to the floor. Her voice trembled with rage. "My family lost everything, and you profited." Adrian stepped closer, desperate. "I didn't know it was yours, Naomi, if I had." She cut him off, her eyes blazing. Don't you dare say my name like you care. Silence stretched heavy, his regret colliding with her fury. Naomi backed away, clutching her chest. You didn't just take my body, you took my family's dignity. Her words hit like blades, leaving Adrian speechless. Naomi stormed out into the night, the rain soaking through her coat as tears blurred her vision. Adrian followed, calling her name, his voice breaking. I didn't know, Naomi. She spun around, rain streaking her face. You always knew. Men like you always know. The street was alive with neon and thunder, but all Naomi felt was the roar inside her chest. Adrian's shoulders slumped, his polished exterior crumbling. I swear, I never meant to hurt you. Naomi shook her head, whispering, But you did. Naomi collapsed into Maya's arms later that night, her sobs shaking her entire frame. Maya stroked her braids gently, whispering, He doesn't deserve your pain. Naomi gasped through tears. It wasn't just me, Maya. He destroyed my family too. Maya's jaw clenched as anger replaced sympathy. Then let him drown in his own guilt. You rise above it. Naomi pulled back, eyes swollen but burning. But how do you rise when the ground has been stolen from under you? Maya pressed her forehead to hers. You build your own ground, Naomi. Adrian sat alone in his penthouse, the city spread out like a kingdom he could no longer claim. He stared at the contract papers on his desk, his reflection fractured in the glass. His whisper was broken. I didn't know it was her. His fists clenched as guilt suffocated him. For the first time, power felt like a curse. He remembered Naomi's face when she said he had taken everything, and it tore through him like fire. He whispered into the empty room, I can't lose her. Not like this. Naomi stormed into Adrian's penthouse, the night storm raging behind her. Her voice cracked like thunder. You destroyed my family, and still had the audacity to touch me. Adrian rose from his chair, his face shadowed in guilt. Naomi, I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know. She shook her head, her braids falling around her face like a crown of fury. Lies come easy to men with money. His steps closed the distance, his voice trembling for the first time. I would give it all back if it meant keeping you. She whispered, but you can't. Naomi's voice rose, raw with fury. You stole my dignity and my family's future. Adrian's chest heaved as he shouted back, I didn't know it was yours, Naomi. His voice cracked, the weight of truth cutting him open. Naomi stepped closer, her eyes wet but unyielding. You took everything from me, he whispered hoarsely, and yet I can't let you go. Their words collided in the air, sharp as knives, soft as wounds. Naomi felt her strength tremble under the weight of his confession. But she refused to crumble. Adrian's voice dropped, ragged. You were the only pure thing in my life, and I ruined it. Naomi's eyes burned as she whispered, I gave you my first night, Adrian. Do you even understand what that means? His breath caught, knees buckling as if the weight of her words shattered him. He whispered, You were a virgin, and I didn't see you. Naomi's tears finally fell, her body trembling with rage and grief. You never saw me, she cried. Silence swallowed them, raw and merciless. Naomi's voice cracked with anguish. You broke me, Adrian. You shattered something I can never get back. Adrian's hands reached out, trembling. Then let me spend the rest of my life fixing it. She shook her head fiercely. You can't buy forgiveness. He whispered, I don't want to buy it. I want to earn it. Naomi's chest rose and fell, her soul tearing between fury and the remnants of love she still felt. The storm outside roared louder, as though the city itself bore witness to their breaking point. Naomi turned away, her voice breaking into the silence. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Adrian rose slowly, his face pale with despair. Then let me love you until you decide. She closed her eyes, tears streaming, torn between hate and the ache of still wanting him. She whispered, I wish I could stop loving you. His voice dropped to a desperate murmur. Then let me be the man who earns it. The storm outside cracked with lightning, echoing the war inside her chest. Naomi sat by Maya's window as the morning sun cut through the blinds, her face pale from a sleepless night. She whispered, "I told him I don't know if I can forgive." Maya leaned against the wall, arms crossed, her gaze sharp but kind. "You don't owe him forgiveness," Maya said firmly. Naomi's eyes filled, her voice breaking. "But I still love him." The words dropped like glass shattering, leaving silence heavy between them. Maya exhaled and whispered, "Then you have to decide if love is enough, or if it's the chain that keeps you bound." Adrian stood before the boardroom window, the city gleaming like a kingdom he could no longer control. His reflection stared back, hollow-eyed. His assistant spoke, "Sir, the investors are waiting." Adrian shook his head. "Let them wait." For the first time, business meant nothing. His voice cracked as he whispered, "What's the point of winning when I've lost her?" The polished empire around him felt like a cage. The city roared outside, but inside, Adrian crumbled, a man stripped of power, left only with regret. Naomi walked through the small cafe where her mother once dreamed of building a future. Dust clung to the counters, chairs stacked in silence. Her heart clenched as she whispered, "This was supposed to be ours." She pressed her palm against the counter, eyes closing against the weight of memory. Adrian's betrayal had stolen more than her innocence. It had stolen her family's hope. Yet in the silence, Naomi felt resolve harden. "I'll rebuild," she whispered. Tears slid down her face, not of weakness but of defiance. That night, Adrian stood outside Naomi's building, rain dripping from his hair, his suit soaked through. His voice broke as he called upward, "Naomi, please, let me speak." Naomi opened her window, her face shadowed with pain. "You've said enough." Adrian's chest tightened as he whispered, "Then let me show you." For the first time, his arrogance was gone, replaced by a desperate humility. Naomi stared down, her heart battling against her pride. She closed the window softly, leaving Adrian in the storm, broken but waiting. Naomi lay awake in her bed, her body still trembling from the confrontation. The storm had faded, leaving the night strangely quiet. She whispered into the darkness, "I still love him, but love doesn't erase scars." Her tears soaked the pillow, but for the first time, she felt stronger than her pain. She pressed her hand to her chest, whispering, "I will not let this break me." Outside, the city pulsed with neon, indifferent to her battle. Inside, Naomi's heart steadied with the truth. Love might remain, but dignity would lead her path. Naomi walked along the river at dawn, the city's skyline glowing faintly through the mist. Her voice broke as she whispered to herself, "I loved him more than I should have." The air was cold, carrying the memory of Adrian's touch. She pressed her coat tighter, her braids damp with morning dew. She wasn't walking away from love. She was walking toward herself. The silence of the river mirrored her own stillness, though her heart still ached. She whispered, "This pain will not own me." Adrian sat in the back of his car, staring blankly at the rain streaking down the window. His driver asked softly, "Home, sir?" Adrian shook his head. "I don't know where home is anymore." His reflection stared back, hollow and broken. His empire was intact, but his heart lay in ruins. He whispered Naomi's name like a prayer, his voice raw with longing. For the first time in years, power meant nothing, and love had left him on his knees. Naomi returned to the cafe that once belonged to her family, her footsteps echoing in the hollow space. She whispered, "We'll rise again." Her hands brushed the worn counter, her tears mixing with fragile hope. For the first time, she didn't think of Adrian when she thought of tomorrow. She thought of herself, of her mother's dreams, of strength buried deep in her bones. The walls that once echoed with laughter now carried her vow. "I will not be defined by what he took from me," she said aloud, her voice steady. Adrian walked alone across the rooftop of his penthouse, the city stretching endlessly below. His voice was barely a whisper. "Naomi, I ruined everything. His hands gripped the railing, his face tilted toward the sky, as though searching for forgiveness in the stars. The city lights shimmered like promises he could never keep. For once, he didn't look like a billionaire. He looked like a man stripped bare. His heart beat with one truth. Love had humbled him in a way wealth never could. Naomi sat by her window that night, the city glowing quietly in the distance. She whispered, "I loved him, but I choose me." Her tears dried as her chest rose steady with a new strength. Adrian's shadow would always haunt her, but it would no longer define her. She pressed her palm against the glass, eyes shining with both loss and dignity. In the silence, her final words lingered. "Love broke me, but it will never destroy me." The city lights flickered like a heartbeat, carrying her vow into forever.